people touched by Jesus and healed. One came to Jesus, and the other, Jesus went to her. But I want you to look into each of their stories. While the crowd surrounded Jesus, a synagogue ruler named Jairus came to Jesus. Jairus humbly kneels before Jesus and pleads with him to come quickly to his house. His daughter is dying. He's desperate, and he asks Jesus to please come, touch her, heal her, that she may live. Jesus and his disciples, with their compassion, immediately leave and go with Jairus to the home, and the crowd follows. Jesus was an amazing. Everybody wanted to be by him, with him, and the crowd. And the only way I can understand a crowd is in my head when you see on TV movie stars or singers, and the crowd is just right there, pushing, shoving, screaming, yelling. Picture that as the crowd that was following Jesus that day. But suddenly the story changes. A woman in the crowd touches the hem of Jesus' cloak. Imagine what the disciples was going through when Jesus turned and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Really? What? Everybody's around you. How could you say that? But it didn't stop Jesus. He wanted to know. And he turned around and he looked. And he looked until he found the person. The woman, realizing that she had been touched and healed, fell on her knees at his feet, trembling with fear, and she now begins to tell her story. This nameless woman had been bleeding for 12 years. She had spent all her money going from doctor to doctor to find a treatment in hopes to find a cure to stop the bleeding. Instead of getting better, she was only getting worse. But I need to stop right here and explain to you, she was still living under the Levitical law. If you want to do a study on this when you get home, look up Leviticus chapter 15, and it will explain what all you have to go through, what procedures, so that you can be proclaimed clean. And this is how it was for people bleeding. Unclean people, they were considered. They were not allowed to be touched by anyone or let anyone touch them. She could not sit beside anyone. She would be living an isolated life from her family and friends. She was banned from all human contact. Anyone coming in contact with her would be considered unclean, and they too must go through the proper procedure to be announced clean again. The only way this woman would be considered clean is for her bleeding to stop and for her to go through the proper procedure. When I think of this, I think of solitary confinement for 12 years. No one could come near her for 12 years. She was totally exhausted, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And in that desperation is how she was able to push through that crowd. But you see, you have to understand too, she wasn't from this village. Because if she was, she would have been recognized as unclean. And someone could have been yelling at her that she was unclean and get away from her. She didn't go to Jesus' face. She went to his back. She was a woman. And a woman back then was worthless. It's pretty sad when you think about all these things was going through her mind. Desperation, she pushed through that crowd. Nobody was going to stop her. She heard what Jesus was. She heard that he could touch her and heal her, but she had to touch him. And that's what happened that day. Immediately, upon touching his cloak, she knew her blood had stopped. And I can't even imagine the blanket of relief that came to this woman to know that she could now be with people again. But, oh my gosh, the healer is confronting me. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine what she was going through when Jesus wanted to know who she was? So she kneels at his feet, expecting to be treated harshly, only to be treated with daughter, you're healed. Your peace. And all those 12 years, it's gone. And she can now come back to the family, come back to the community, come back to church. How thankful she had to have been. But you have to understand, it was her faith that was significant. She heard about Jesus. And it was her faith that grew. Her touching Jesus' garment expressed her faith. Jesus assured her her healing was complete. She could again enjoy social interaction and participate once again in public worship. While Jesus was still talking to this woman, a new crowd appears to let Jairus know that his daughter has died. The men said not to bother the teacher anymore because she has died. Jesus ignored what the men said and looked at Jairus and said, "Do not be afraid, just believe." And the story changes again because now Jesus takes charge. He did not allow anyone to follow them except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. The crowd was not invited. When they came to the home and Jesus saw all the commotion of people crying and wailing, he said to them, "The child is not dead, she's asleep." They laughed at him. Jesus took Jairus and his wife and the disciples where the child lay. Jesus then raised the 12-year-old daughter back to life. In these two amazing accounts of healing, Jesus stopped the dying of the woman and restored her to life. In the case of the daughter, who was already dead, Jesus restored her to life. Both show his power over death and sickness. Now, let's look at the differences in the story and the similarities. Both Jairus and the woman met Jesus at his feet on their knees. Jairus was a synagogue leader. He could go to the church whenever he wanted, while her affliction kept her from coming to the temple to worship. Jesus came pleading for his daughter. The woman came pleading for herself. The girl had been healthy for 12 years and died. The woman had been ill for 12 years and was made whole. Jairus' need was made public. The woman's need was private. Both trusted Jesus, and he met their needs. The duration of time the woman dealt with the blood issue shows faith is the key, no matter how long the trial, the test, or the sickness may last. Both stories are powerful and moving. They show true commitment to Jesus involves faith. Faith moves us to press on with strong confidence and determination to stay focused on Jesus. Faith is not something you do. Faith is something that you believe Jesus will do for you. If you would write faith down, F-A-I-T-H, forwarding all issues to heaven. In faith, we can hand over our trials and our hurts and expect that Jesus will take care of us, whatever that means to you, whatever that means to me, whatever that hurt is, whatever that problem is, give it to Jesus. But I want you to think for a moment the celebration that took place in these two homes. They got their lives back. Their life changed totally, both families. Can you imagine what the celebration would have been like? Today we take time for Thank Offering Sunday. But it's a time that I need to ask you, what has Jesus done for you? What blessings have you received as his child? You each received in your bulletin a yellow-green Post-it note. At this time, I'm going to ask you to write down items that Jesus has touched you, has healed you, has blessed you, has provided for you. Write it down. There's a basket here. If you want to bring your thank offering forward, please bring with your note. If you have no offering, please bring your note. And I want, when you're writing your thankfulness, as you step out to bring it forward, it's your faith you're going to stand on for the blessings you're going to receive as you thank him for the blessings you already received. Don't put your name on it. We're going to put all of these Post-it notes and we will be putting them up for everybody to see and to read. Why is that important? As you thank God, we are a community, and we want to thank God for what he's done in your life, and I want you to thank God for what he's done in my life. And then take time next week when you come and you see these papers, take time to read. Is there anyone who does not have a Post-it note that the ushers could give you? Everybody has one? Okay, Sam's going to play a song quietly while we think and meditate and thank God. Sam? Yeah, put them in this basket up here. This isn't just for women. If you have a thankful heart, write your thankful heart down and bring it forward. This time of year is Thanksgiving, as families gather together. You just need to be more thankful for your family. It's a precious time, precious time. And if you know somebody that needs to be with your family, make that happen too. Thank you. Amen.